Well, I suppose it shows when you've got someone who not only started the company and owns...
He didn't actually start it.
No, that's true. That's quite true, yes.
He did a Ray Kroc.
He did indeed. You're absolutely right.
There's a great story with McDonald's.
Yeah. Isn't it? Yes.
Persistence. Oh, that Michael Keaton, he's just the best. Everything he lays his hands on, I mean, come on, he's just such a good... Hi, g'day, and welcome to a brand new podcast where branding, business strategy and belief collide. Today, we're joined by Derek Lath, a long-time employee of Ferrero Australia. Derek's grounding in a true north, corporate values and sustainability doesn't just help move Ferrero's bottom line, it genuinely delivers positive outcomes for people and the planet. We discuss his thoughts on the building blocks of success and how they relate to everything from post-war Italy, Don Bradman and Kia's new pickup truck, the Tasman. Expect thoughtful storytelling, a few laughs and a reminder that business can be human first without the constant focus on profit. On a brand new podcast.
Hi, it's Chris here.
And it's Dan here.
And we're from The Gurus. And today we've got Derek Lath from Ferrero. He's head of corporate affairs and has been for a number of years. Welcome, Derek.
It's nice to be here, guys. Very exciting.
Well, one of the things we thought we'd do, Derek, to start off is you've had an incredible career. Number of brands, but most importantly, the Ferrero brand for about 30 odd years. Tell us a little bit about the journey, because you've really followed Ferrero as it started from its infancy through to growth, having come from one of its competitors prior to that.
Yeah, that's right. I've had a long, and I'll emphasise long, history in confectionery. Well, I think I served my penance, though. After I graduated as an accountant, I actually did work with Caterpillar in heavy industry and actually doing pricing and economic analysis, and then ended up trying to do marketing campaigns for irrigation and sewer pipes. So I think I was due some fun in confectionery. But the story there was basically Cadbury were looking for a guy who knew accounting and also knew marketing, and there was me and Johnny on the spot. I ended up at Cadbury. I ended up meeting a good lady from Sydney, and the rest is history, Melbourne to Sydney. And Ferrero was like a sentence in my reports to the managing director at Cadbury, where you go up to the top floor and hold the papers shaking and say, "Here's the report, Mr. Hayes." And one sentence. So probably I moved...
There's so little, they had no market share at that stage.
Well, it was Tic Tac and it was Ferrero Australia, and that was it. Yes. And it was whatever they were selling. And there was a brand called Nutella, which I didn't know much about. Yeah. All things considered, though, it was an office of like 10, 12 people. It was about a $40 million business. And here we are now over the journey of, 31 years later, and it's 100 people in an office, and it's got sales over $350 million. And it's very ambitious for growth beyond there. So, it's exciting times there. In a resume, I'll say I was responsible for the growth, but I think it could be an overstatement.
Thank you for that. Just share a little bit about the amazing, I guess, philosophy of the Ferrero family, as you say, the last 3 decades.
It was a real eye-opener to join Ferrero. We're talking a privately owned company still, Italian company, and its founder, Michele Ferrero, creating all of the brands that we actually know as household brands, Nutella, Ferrero Australia, Tic Tac, Kinder. These incredible brands that he's evolved and developed since what started as a small pastry shop in, post-World War II. In Alba, in the northwestern part of Italy. And so from there, it's grown to be the third largest player in sweet packaged foods in the world. Back in the 1950s, we saw people leaving their farms to go to the factories to get work in post-war Europe. So Senior Michele did not want people to be leaving the land, which they were growing crops like hazelnuts in that area. So he actually arranged transport so the farms could be picked up and brought to the thing and taken back, so they didn't have to leave the land. Simple thing like that. But you just think about that at the time, that's pretty remarkable.
Absolutely.
But it was founded on a concept of just being very much knowing your consumer, who he personified as Valeria, and everything he did had to satisfy Valeria.
Just talk about that, because most people wouldn't know that concept.
It's a really interesting thing, and it's this whole thing about being authentic to everything you do. It was a personification of the consumer, of the shopper.
So it's always Valeria, which is like your target.
That was the time. Now, obviously,
60 years ago.
70. In time, that's changed. Obviously, we've evolved, and so we're talking about a journey. But that still encapsulates the very essence of the company. And
if I'm not mistaken, just for those listeners who don't know, the genesis of Ferrero, as you said, post-World War II, Derek, was about trying to give those coming off the war zones and out of war into rebuilding a treat, and it was a hazelnut treat. Is that not right? It was the pastry shop created the hazelnut
from
chocolate?
Chocolate and hazelnut was very much part of that area of Italy. So
Alba. Is that right?
Well, Alba is the town, and that sits not far from Turin.
Okay, gotcha.
In the northwest of Italy. Senior Michele identified there was people were letting the product melt so they could actually spread it. So there was this idea of this genesis of, hey, maybe a spreadable version of this chocolate hazelnut could be developed. And through experimentation, and the
Nutella was born.
The birth of Nutella in 1964, same year as me. So they had a term many, many years ago, and I'm giving away Ferrero secrets here, but there was a phrase many, many, many years ago, prodotto impresa, the brand is an enterprise. And it was a circularity concept rather than dealing with a product life cycle. Well, you've created Nutella and it's going to last here, and then you better invent something new because the next one's coming. This was, no. We've created this unique product. We've identified Valeria. We're going to continue to invest in it. It'll be the finest product we can make. Everything we do will satisfy that end response, and we'll continue to develop our communications and our relevance as it evolves. And here we are, and you're still looking at a brand that's a massive brand globally.
I was going to ask the values of the company. How are they kind of aligned with yours? Have you got stuff to talk about?
That's a great question. How can I end up working for a place for 31 years? You get less for murder. But but in truth, there is definitely, I relate to the brands, and even doing a job in corporate affairs, I have to talk about the organisation to stakeholders, and I sleep well doing that. I don't have any dissonance about that whatsoever. The values relate to me directly. So we're talking today about authenticity and purpose, and the very essence of one of the brand values is loyalty and trust, which is a symbiotic relationship, in other words, between the producer and the consumer, and that relationship you have on that brand, that you can satisfy the expectations of the brand. So it's something that's stayed with me, and it feels very comfortable talking about it.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, because just to hear this story just now, I had no idea how amazing the story was. It's great.
It is. It is. And you can actually feel, and I mean, I'm saying it, sitting here doing a podcast with you, I can feel the passion and the emotion. I can see it in your eyes, I can feel it in your heart, and I can hear it in your voice. I think, and that's wonderful. I'd say that's quite rare. And it'd be interesting to know, Derek, you know how many organisations, Australian or international, sit down, new CEO will come in, right, we've got to get our values and our mission, we're going to revisit it.
Rebrand.
And they'll change it, alter it, and they'll try and make it like buzzword bingo. What's the latest things, we can put on our list of values? It sounds like Ferrero started with values that other people hadn't even thought about, and has actually moved through and continued with the same. And I'd say that's very, very rare.
Yeah, and at scale, you can.
And at scale,
there's points where it's a tipping point when it needs to change to get much bigger, but to keep values.
That is so true.
On track,
it's an interesting challenge, because then you think of values. Well, are these a straitjacket that holds you at a point in time, or can they evolve with the business?
Be interpreted.
The interesting thing is how it's evolved over the carnations of the business.
Yes.
So, we're now in the Giovanni Ferrero, Michele's son, is the executive chairman, and he managed the strategic direction of the organisation. And the lens of Senior Michele was very much we grow from within. Giovanni has expanded the organisation. He's done acquisitions and mergers and developed, but the fundamentals of how you behave, if you like,
incredible,
is the true sense of a value.
Yeah.
Cascades.
Another thing I think was really interesting, Dan and I and our listeners would love to hear. I think we were saying, what are brands that you really admire who bring sustainability and other ingredients for success? And I think you were going to talk about one of the brands that you saw at the National Advertisers Conference recently. Just share with us why you see them as a stellar brand, how they've got to where they have from nowhere to somewhere, and those aspects that you find that you admire and that you saw in them as well.
Yeah, I'll give a shout out to the AANA, the Advertising Association, who put on an annual event called Reset, which is a fantastic, it's advertising marketing, and so there you go, guys, you've just had a nice boost. During that event, I had very little experience with Guzman y Gomez, GYG, let's call it for simplicity.
Yep.
And they had their CEO, Stephen Marks, was speaking and presenting on the journey and the story of GYG. And this almost became like a game of Ferrero bingo as I was listening to Stephen present, because their journey is remarkable. And we talked about growth just then with Ferrero, and from a patisserie to third largest.
For those who don't know, give us the
GYG,
yeah,
basically, and I'm
in a nutshell,
absorbing all of this from his speech, but basically what started off as a small, unprofitable store. No, let's go back. Before that, he recognised there was a need. Nobody's having really good Mexican food here, and he was in Sydney. He's going, why can't you guys just enjoy it? He was a New Yorker, and he was going, why can't you get good food, right? Yeah. So he thought, right, we'll do something better. So he creates his GYG, I think in Newtown, and it's not making much money.
Started in Newtown,
yeah.
Right, thank you.
So he's got one unprofitable store, and he's determined, and he's very strong on True North and be authentic.
Yeah.
So he then believes it. He opens up a few more unprofitable stores, and the journey goes on. And there's obviously milestones that create the step change. But here we are now, and I think they're close to $1 billion in sales, and global in their footprint. But what was really interesting was what are the underliers to that? And there was this obsession to detail. Right. Like he told the story of how long it took him to actually develop a corn chip.
Really?
That would actually satisfy the need of not being too soggy or not being too hard or not being too and I was thinking about...
Was his Valeria?
Probably more, to a certain extent, what would Valeria accept?
Yes.
But more to the point also in terms of Michele Ferrero constantly re-engineered products until he was satisfied. It was like the very same sort of thing with a corn chip. So this guy with obsession to detail, the next thing he talked about was don't ever compromise on quality product. People. And anyone who's worked at Ferrero will know it's quality
True.
throughout. And quality not just as a word that you work to a standard. It's just an impact right through the journey from how you source an ingredient right through to how you make it, right through to how you sell it. And in fact, the company even employs people to check how fresh the products are in the marketplace, just to ensure that the consumer, Valeria, dare we say, is happy. A third one was this: people want realness, transparency. And here we are, and we're talking in this day and age of authenticity and reputation, and this being true to having a true north.
Yes.
So, he was determined to have food that makes people feel good. Yeah. And he talked about, why does, cage-free with eggs and chickens. And he was saying, have you ever gone to one of these places? He said, I did. And my mind was made up straight away, and he saw one option and then he saw the other option. He said, well, that's the way we're going. We're not doing that. They said, yeah, but the cost. And he said, no. That's the way we're going to go. So it was this concept of realness, this transparency. What's going to make you feel good and stay there? And this is where the advent we've seen of sustainability coming in and being part of the business model. Not only is it the right thing to do, but it's satisfying your end market and being a brand value. We've seen something similar in chocolate with Tony's Chocolonely. There's another one. When we're sourcing ingredients, where, when you hear about Fair Trade or Rainforest Alliance, and I'm not making light of those because they're essential, we see that as almost like the floor. Right. That's the base level of how you should source your ingredients. Ferrero establishes ingredient charters, so it's already working with its supply chain in terms of environmental requirements, in terms of social requirements, in terms of economic requirements to ensure the well-being of the ingredients, the people who are providing your ingredients. So, and then it's beyond them working with the certification organisations, but then having the traceability to actually know where your product came from and to actually check it on the ground. And this is really the nice part of sustainability, is it's all about stakeholder relationships. You need to work with NGOs together to create the change and see how are we performing. Here is our charter. How's this performing? How can we then work with the growers to help them be better and exist better?
It sort of begs the question, curious to know your thoughts, Derek. If you're bringing product to market, how do you ensure the consumer realises that your value proposition is embedded in sourcing, the right ingredients? Do you ever experience, your sales team experience people going, I buy Ferrero product because I know?
Oh, Chris, this is the $1 million question. Yeah. Or maybe even more. So, firstly, we have how we express our brand,
Yes.
obviously, and there's the extensions of what is your brand values. And so if you're talking Nutella, you're communicating all of those things, or Ferrero Australia, or whatever the case may be. But then you also need to be able to express that to your retail trade partners so that they understand who they're doing business with. And sustainability is very much part of those commercial conversations. Yeah. So they understand your product because they need to satisfy their shopper. And we were talking about that before. Yeah. So you need to have that holistically working together. But then beyond that, you're talking about, well, corporate reputation. You're talking about, well, how do you behave? You're talking about who are the stakeholders who impact on your business and how are you behaving with them? And that then creates more of a halo around the brands. Now, we're actually doing a campaign, and I'll give myself a shout out at the moment, with Ferrero Australia. We're doing a campaign called Quality at Heart. Right. We're actually in year 2 of that, and it's actually on air as we speak.
Fantastic, great.
Really, that calls out all of those aspects more broadly about corporately who we are, because we're trying to get that narrative to the consumers, to the broader stakeholders about complex areas of explaining sourcing of ingredients.
Yes.
It's not just a simple, well, show me this and tick that box.
Correct.
There's a narrative to it. It's showing really good science, and we're not Robinson Crusoe on this. It has been done in a few countries around the world. We're amongst the first, and we're really pleased that we're able to champion that here in Australia. I do have a dream in the future where you could actually do this off a product rather than having to learn all of that. And can I expand?
You absolutely can. Yeah. We'd love you to.
So we all got used to the joys of QR codes following COVID. Our good friend COVID.
Yes.
And really the whole idea is, how could you communicate all that information? And, not just the sustainability information, but the storage and handling and marketing campaigns and what about a recipe? Or, all of these associated pieces of information that's relevant to making this product. There's only so much real estate you can actually put on a product. Correct. Certainly if you did that on a Nutella jar, you didn't see the Nutella jar, you'd just have all of these labels.
Right.
So the idea would be if you scan the QR code, it takes you into this world of the information on the brand. Right. And you would get much more. So it has the basics of nutrition and allergens and all of these things, but it's supplemented with so much more. I think there's an opportunity not only to provide that information in a better way, but the beauty of this is it's single source information that comes from the owners of the business. It's not been regurgitated and someone's done all this homework and then put it out as an app and you're relying on the app.
Yes.
Meanwhile, the data could have changed and you don't know.
Yes.
It's single source coming from the organisation saying this is what's the story of our product. I really love that. And I think that will hopefully be a way we can actually getting back to your question, the opportunity of explaining who you are.
Almost educating it.
Yeah, it's a form of education. And if you don't want to know that and you're only interested in the recipe, then go to the recipe tab. You know what I mean?
I love it. I absolutely love the idea of it.
It's being trialled right now. Right. Like if you were in your Woolworths store and looking at the meats tray, they're using a QR code now and it provides supplementary information on that.
Just scan it on your phone and away you go.
Yeah.
So I suppose just to step back a bit, how well do you think brands will embrace actually releasing that information? Because, of course,
being really honest and open.
At the moment, there isn't much information. All you've got is from local and overseas ingredients. So, that's just not enough, is it?
It's an interesting thing. It comes down to, on a spectrum, what should be done from a regulatory requirement as distinct from a business requirement. I'm a big fan that the regulatory is a flaw that should guarantee, but I really like the aspirational of what a business can stand for. So if you were to try and regulate everything, I think you take away aspiration because everyone will work to the legislation. So
I can't believe that most brands don't do it already, because I think, I love the sound of Italian hazelnuts. That would swing me.
So just building on that, Dan, because the project's being driven by GS1, which is an independent, non-aligned organisation that owns all the barcodes around the world. Yeah. And so it's providing a service. It's a service. It's not a business that's benefiting per se from controlling that part of the market. So that's why they're going through the pilot testing. There's nothing stopping me. Already there is. In fact, you get a Nutella jar, there is a QR code on there, and you can scan things in elements, but it's not standardised as a concept that can be done everywhere. The opportunity is there for hopefully the right sort of organisation to be able to say, you know what, Dan, this is how we source this, and here you go. And isn't that to me is the future of business. That's where I want to see business.
Just out of curiosity, we'd love to know what your observations are of the marketplace and maybe a a favourite brand campaign you might have at the moment. It doesn't have to be in your own category.
Well, I have a favourite brand campaign, but it's certainly got nothing to do with sustainability. But gee whiz it, the Kia Tasman ads have just been extraordinary in how well they've put together, coming up with something brand new a year ago where it wasn't on market, but just emphasise, and you're looking at it going, why on earth are you telling me this? I can't even go
I
and buy
remember it too.
I can't even buy it. But all of a sudden you're getting this name in your head. So they've established that name and they've established it. And then obviously using the right people and the right guys and sporting personalities and telling with a bit of fun.
In case anyone doesn't know about it, explain a little bit more.
Yeah,
it's the brand. And
it's centred on
Tasman,
it's the Tasman. The Ute. And it's based on, a lot of sporting personalities coming together and all of a sudden out of the genesis of all of that along comes the creation of the name. And then from there they then use the vignettes featuring some of those as the product is now on market to actually build and keep telling that narrative. Now, I can't tell you from a sustainability terms anything on it, and I drive a little small Euro car in the suburbs, so I'm probably not target market either. But from the point of view of an ad that's absolutely on the money in terms of creating a name and then really working with it and maintaining it, kudos to them.
It's actually quite unusual. I do remember when it came up, I think they actually bought the ground. Well, we know now a lot of the ground signage is actually digitally dropped in later. But this Kia Tasman, which in itself, just the name, I presume Kia listened to their local market and said, we'll give it a name, the Tasman Sea.
Exactly.
Sort of thing.
You're talking a product for this
spot on
geography.
And then it possibly was that clever thing about build demand before the product's even here.
Yeah.
Which is what I think sort of Steve Jobs did very well. He would launch something. It may not literally be on shelf, but say this is coming and you wanted it. And I think that's the approach. So it was to whet the appetite of what must be a very competitive category.
You'd imagine.
Utility market.
You'd imagine. Certainly when you park... Oh, sorry, Dan.
I'd just say they're very smart to make it a diesel engine rather than focus on a...
For that target audience.
Yes, that target audience is not going to want to...
They knew their Valeria.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
On the flip side, Derek, knowing you well enough, reputation is something, as Warren Buffett once said, it's been said by many others that have parried him, you can take years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it. Tell us about an example that you've witnessed where a brand has possibly what we call brand suicided or certainly tarnished their brand. Why? And what you might have done to try and, rectify that situation.
Well, I won't call it brand suicide. I think that's a bit harsh. Particularly the reputation management side. That would really, no, let's not go there. But certainly let's cause some damage. Yeah. Look, the most celebrated one I can think of is obviously Volkswagen with what happened to them with their emissions situation. It's interesting because that one springs to mind because I was part of the aforementioned AANA. We were talking about the Advertising Association. Yeah. They have the advertising codes, which is for all advertisers across Australia to respect and work to. And I was fortunate enough to sit on the sustainability committee when we were reviewing the environmental code for the AANA. And it came down to those establishments of, there was a lot of accusations of greenwashing and thinking about our friends Volkswagen and what they went through. It was very much how can we develop standards which can restore confidence and trust for people who see the ads, as much as to provide marketers with the guidance and the practice notes on what is a pretty complex area in terms of, what can you say and do? Is it all right for me to say this? And if I do, what do I need to be able to justify it in case I'm challenged on it? So, that's really the essence of what the code that came out is, and it's with its supporting practice note, which was really interesting. But getting back to, Volkswagen, I would not be so presumptuous as to provide them with guidance. It was clear they were not living their value, and it was clear they were doing something that was not consistent with who they are and what they are. I think and they've certainly suffered both financially and in reputation. I think that's quite well documented. What was interesting, I think, following on from that is how they then changed their strategic approach in order to make that a true north. No, we are doing that, and we are adopting that and getting back into thinking what we're talking about with Ferrero in terms of it's part of our business practices and who we are and what we do. That changes then the lens completely from being, it's a marketing campaign and we'll do what we need to do to satisfy X market and say something that we probably shouldn't have said, to now living and breathing something.
One of the questions I'd have, and I remember going to a conference many years ago, Derek, and a guy got up, he used to have a corporate communications newsletter, come website. He got up on stage and he said, corporate communications executive or team has to be the conscience of the organisation. And I wonder if, I remember I won't relate the full story that he gave as a case study, but let's just say there were human fatalities as a result of someone not listening to the corporate communications guidance. No doubt you've never been in that situation, but you can see how it has happened.
You can. And one of the values I didn't mention of Ferrero's, and which is one that I certainly hold dear, is integrity and behaving with integrity. And again, you can try to create that culture of integrity and foster it through your organisation, which you would hope create a situation where someone can speak up. And we have whistleblowing policies, and I'm sure everyone else does in business these days. But it's interesting, how effective are they going to be?
Correct.
But you're right with corporate affairs, that ability to be able to be next to a key decision maker.
Exactly
and
right.
to be able to say, hey, let's just look at this for a minute.
Yes.
Are we comfortable with what we're doing?
It's
one of the craziest things is Tesla at the moment.
Well,
I mean, how Elon's completely, because I mean, everything about the ethos of Tesla was about sustainability and moving towards a battery electric future, and he was very much what seemed like on the left, and he's kind of completely gone the other way. There's I read this morning there's like a car leasing firm has they've just sent all of their Teslas back, 40,000 of them, said we don't want them anymore, in protest against what's happening. I mean, if that's not the definition of brand suicide, I don't know what is, because it's horrific what's going on.
It's interesting. You'd love to know from within their four walls what was the values they all hold dear.
Yeah.
Who are we? What's our true north? Why do we do what we do? And then how the behaviours of whoever through there reflects that.
Well, I suppose it shows when you've got someone who not only started the company and owns.
He didn't actually start it.
No, that's true. That's quite true. Yes,
He did a Ray Kroc.
he did indeed. You're absolutely right.
There's a great story with McDonald's.
Yeah,
Isn't it? Yes.
I love that story.
It's a great story.
Fabulous, isn't it? Yeah, and even that movie, I think, did it. Movie I've seen it did it justice. But brands you have to have a voice in reputation and corporate communication. Firstly, a voice, and two, the ability for those around you want to listen. I think at Tesla, I don't think it mattered who talked to Elon. He's never going to listen. So I presume in an organisation like Ferrero, where you can try and hold people accountable, or any organisation that we all experience or see from the outside in, it's the ability of the C-suite also to listen and say, you know what? Well done, you're our guardian, you're our brand conscience, you pulled us up there. And that's the best thing, I think, in terms of reputation, any executive in the marketing, branding, communications area, corporate communications can do. Would you agree?
I do. It's fundamentally when someone will ask you, so what do you do?
Yes.
It's not like I rattle off all of the things about sustainability and I do all of these things, when fundamentally I'm managing the reputation of the business in this market.
Absolutely right.
Hopefully building it, using a cricket analogy, hopefully I'm coming down the wicket and hitting a few boundaries with quality at heart. Yes. But sometimes you do have to get back on the back foot and defend the middle stump.
Yep.
And don't hit sixes.
I'd much rather do a Don Bradman and just keep hitting fours.
Don't get caught.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Keep it on the ground.
Well, and just to close off, we do like to ask, if you had a big idea and has a big idea in them, what's yours and how would you see it playing a role in broader society?
I'm going to get a bit controversial. Firstly, it's a big ask to come up with one big idea and I have to share it with you. Thanks for that.
Don't trust him.
Yeah. Where's my lawyer now? Having just completed a Master's in Sustainability at Monash, as a very old human being compared to all the others in the cohort, what was really interesting to me is this whole concept of what is education.
Yes.
And let me challenge it. We've been doing the same way of what we call education for 150 years, probably 125 years. What if education was built now we started with the same parameter, we need to know more. We want to educate our population. Would we have built that system? Probably not. Now with today, where, let's face it, anyone should be able to learn at any age, anywhere. Yeah. In any way. I know there's social aspects to all this, but what's to stop, groups of elderly people sitting and doing storytelling with younger people and exchanging knowledge and using incredible arrays of technology behind us to educate in a totally different way to go into class, to sit in Mrs. Smith's class in class 3B
Yes.
and doing the. Now, I'm not knocking Mrs. Smith's class, but it's just a different way of thinking about education, a different way in learning. If we had a learning economy
Yes.
where we all thought about how we can do things, but it wasn't requirement on spending X thousands of dollars to do this, which will get you to this, which will get you to that, and you get a piece of paper and you walk out and say, I can talk about this. And I know there's quality that comes with that, or quality assurance, but the reality is we want to learn. And what if we found a way to do that better? So, okay, it's an idea, it's not a solution. And I really just think we're at a stage where surely we can do it better. Now, I guess we've seen the explosion of podcasts and TED Talks and things that maybe we're sort of evolving this way anyway.
Maybe
we are, because that's how we're finding information to learn.
Well, I think back to your point, to circle back, you'd need CGI almost involved. You need the consumer, which is the parents and the families and the children. You need government. Someone needs to come up with a big idea to change the structures, because in a country where a lot of our systems are publicly funded, and the private school networks as well, we need to almost come together and say, as industry, as that sector, we want change. We want to do it differently. It's a great point. Derek, it's been great hearing from you today and you sharing your insights with us.
Been a pleasure.
We really appreciate it. Thank you. And we look forward to watching Ferrero's success under your guidance and the guidance of the leadership team continue to go from one achievement to another. And your passion for reputation and sustainability. I think more the world changes and gets fractured and information's everywhere and messaging can be changed so quickly. I'm looking for facts and the source of truth. Looking after the brand's reputation is critical. Obviously, you're enjoying doing that. And thank you for your passion today.
Thank you, guys. I've really enjoyed the chat.
And if someone wanted to get in touch with you, what would be the easiest way?
Well, they can find me on the dreaded LinkedIn, and that might be the easiest way to reach out.
Okay, fantastic.
So it's Derek Lath. I guarantee you there's not too many of me there.
No, great to chat. Thank you so much.
Well done. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Eric.